Good morning. This is the 10th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2019. My name is Clarence Rambarat. I'm the chairman of this Joint Select Committee. I now invite my colleagues on the committee to introduce themselves, starting with the member on the right.
Good morning. My name is Khadija Amin. I'm an opposition senator and a member of the committee.
Good morning, everyone. Daniel Duki is my name, member of the committee.
Good morning, Kazim Hussein, member.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Richards, member.
Morning to everyone. Derup Timal, member.
Good morning, all. Rajanath and Singh, member.
Thank you very much. We also have the support of the Secretariat provided by the Parliament, Ms. Karat and Ms. Janki Prasad. We are also supported by the officers of the Chief Parliamentary Council, Ms. Ida Eversley, the Deputy CPC, and other members of the CPC's department. This public hearing is being broadcast on Parliament Channel 11, Parliament Radio 105.5 FM, and the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. We have before us today representatives from the Board of Inland Revenue and representatives from the Commission of State Lands Division in the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. I now invite, starting with the BIR representatives, I invite you to introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Asheda Gibson, State Council, Board of Inland Revenue.
Good morning, Rabindranath Redoy, Revenue Officer 3.
Good morning, Ramnarayan BDC, Acting Commissioner of Inland Revenue, Debt Management and District Revenue Services. Thank you.
Good morning, Banmati Sicharan, Acting Commissioner of State Lands.
Good morning, Jacqueline Gantum Farrell, Technical Coordinator in the Office of the Commissioner of State Lands.
Good morning, Jamie St. George, Geographic Information Systems Officer.
Morning, Trisha Melville, Senior Land Information Officer.
Good morning, Chitra Parag, Land Enforcement Officer 1.
Thank you very much. This Joint Select Committee was appointed to consider a bill that was laid in the House of Representatives by my colleague, Senator Kazim Hussein, the Minister with responsibility for local government. The House of Representatives took a decision to appoint this committee to consider the bill, and in consideration of the bill to have meetings with stakeholders so that we get the views of the people who are most likely to be affected by the contents of this bill. This is actually the last public stakeholder meeting we are having. This is the 10th, and we've had a number of recommendations and contributions so far, some related to the law and the drafting of the bill, but a lot of it relating to the practicality, the implementation issues, some existing issues in the corporation. A wide range of matters have been raised by the various stakeholders. The importance of the BIR is in relation to what the bill proposes, and the bill proposes that after Section 75 of the existing legislation, that a Part 5 be inserted, and that Part 5 covers the area of property tax, and that is essentially what our members would be interested in talking to the BIR this morning about. In relation to the Commission of State Lands, we've had a presentation by the Ministry of Planning and Development, and that relates to the process for, on one hand, town and country approval, and on the other hand, things like construction permits and so on. In that presentation, we found that on the high end, as many as 22 state entities could be involved in the permitting process in this country on a development project. One of those entities is the Commission of State Lands, who has responsibility for state lands in the country, but has other responsibilities outside of that in relation to lands in the country. So the committee has an interest also in getting some information from the Commission of State Lands. I would say this: the Commission of State Lands falls within the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. I'm the minister with responsibility for that ministry. My colleagues have agreed that while I will chair the session this morning, I would not direct any questions to the Commissioner of State Lands and her team. and I would not intervene to assist the Commissioner of State Lands and her team in any difficulties that they get themselves in. I want to invite my colleague, Senator Paul Richards, to open the proceedings on our behalf.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning again, everyone. My question will go to the persons here representing the Board of Inland Revenue. Comes in relation to, as the Chairman indicated, Part 5 to be inserted, sections 76 through, which relates specifically to property tax, and section 78, which is on page 44 of the bill, says a municipal corporation shall be responsible for the collection of property taxes in relation to residential land within its municipality. And 78.2, where a municipal corporation collects property tax on all residential lands in its municipality, it shall retain such taxes in its corporation fund established under section 109. Very earlier on in our stakeholder interactions, we would have received information that the municipalities were going to be classified in various ways. My first question is, have you had sight of those classifications? And if you have, what would those classifications mean for how taxes are collected and the tiers of taxes collected, if you have that information?
No, we don't have, at this time, we don't have any information on that particular question. We can note the question and provide an answer on that particular question.
All right, thank you. All right, with that said, and in terms of the municipalities that are envisioned to now be responsible for the collection of these property taxes, has the BIR started making any preparations or provisions for what will be needed in terms of resources to the acquisition of the information in terms of a database on residential owners as envisioned in Part 5, and in relation to collecting those taxes with a database as provided so that the collection can be done in an orderly fashion? Any provisions have been made yet, or any provisions have been started or discussions?
The Inland Revenue presently have a rule which is based on the land and building taxes. The new rule, it is being done by the Valuations Department. The Valuations Department will then submit that rule to the Inland Revenue, who will then create an assessment. Okay, so Inland Revenue will create an assessment rule from that valuation rule. What will happen is it is the responsibility of the Inland Revenue then to collect the taxes based on that assessment rule. Now, the bill provides whereby the residential properties that relates to the municipal corporation, those corporations will collect those money. With the current system, once we have that rule and we put it on our computerized system, we'll be able to collect the money.
So, just to be clear,
sure.
Presently the taxes are collected when they were being collected by. So the Inland Revenues, it is envisioned in your understanding of the bill that the municipalities will directly collect the taxes and afford the BIR of the information. How is it going to work specifically? Just for clarity of those listening and watching.
Based on what our understanding of it is, the Inland Revenue is responsible for sending out all assessment notice. However, the ones that relate to the municipal corporations, with regards to residential property, the municipal corporation will collect those.
Do you have a sense of the provisions envisioned here, meaning that the BIR will have to now create a whole new department for this to execute this effectively? or is it presently reposed in terms of the systems you have in the BIR?
The BIR currently have a district revenue services function. And within that service, you have a number of revenue officers. Previously, well, under the Land and Building Taxes Act, which was repealed in 2009, they collected land and building taxes based on the assessment rules. However, they are currently collecting arrears of those taxes. So we have the mechanism to collect those taxes. It's just another name from land and building to property tax.
Finally, before I defer to my colleague, Senator Timal, through you, Chairman, can you give us a sense of how far or how accurate your database is at the moment in terms of being able to get a sense of how far you are in the process of collecting the taxes that are in arrears, and also getting a sense of a database of persons with residential plots, for lack of a better term, as an assessment of what is at stake here moving forward?
Every 6 months, we are required to submit a semi-annual report on the arrears of land and building taxes. Prior to the amnesty and prior to the last report, all the district revenue officers were advised to go through and verify their listing. So it is probably at least 90% accurate.
And if I'm not breaching any protocol by asking this, can you give us a sense of the percentage of arrears in percentage and actual number, monetary number of the arrears nationally?
In September, 31st March 2019, the figure was about $113 million.
Member Timal?
Mr. Bidesi, other than the question of arrears and collection of the arrears and all those things, the bill envisages there's certain vision in terms of, it's very specific that the Board of Inland Revenue shall forward to each corporation the names, addresses, and assessed taxes of all taxpayers for residential land. And in terms of the readiness of the Board of Inland Revenue to forward such information to the respective corporations, are you ready? I mean, is the information, the database established, the valuations done for the residential buildings throughout, and to transfer that information to the corporations? One, that's the readiness. The second thing is that the bill is very, very specific about the confidentiality of information. And it calls upon the corporation to exercise the same degree of confidentiality that the Board of Inland Revenue has to exercise with regards to information regarding taxes and property taxes. And from where you sit in terms of the Board of Inland Revenue, with the transferring of such information, wherein lies the primary responsibility for the confidentiality? Because on page 45, clause 80 of the bill, it calls on the Chief Executive Officer of a corporation shall ensure that the corporation complies with all security requirements of the Board of Inland Revenue. So there's a specific standard that the corporation now has to exercise and comply with all the security requirements of the Board of Inland Revenue. So in terms of where the Board of Inland Revenue is regarding this bill, with regards to ensuring that the corporations comply with the security requirements. Where are you all with that? What is your thinking there? Has anything been done, thought given to the matter? So one is your readiness to transfer the information, and the second is the whole question of confidentiality and security requirements.
In terms of the readiness question, the information, first there's supposed to be a valuation rule, which is prepared by the valuations department. And that rule will then be sent to the Inland Revenue Division. So as at this time, valuation did not send any rule to the Board of Inland Revenue as yet. So that is a more a valuations question rather than a Inland Revenue. I cannot comment on the valuation aspect of it.
The bill assigns that the responsibility to you, not the valuation department. It is specifically stated here that the Board of Inland Revenue shall forward the information. So it's
okay. So, right. For us to forward, we must first receive. No, not that I know. No.
And there was a
security
second question.
If I may, with respect to the security question, the confidentiality provisions to the Board of Inland Revenue would be Section 4 of the Income Tax Act, right? And so all members of the Board of Inland Revenue are required to take the oath of secrecy, and there are specific provisions with respect to breaching that oath. For our part, we have noted that the bill includes at 77, subsection 3, includes an offense provision that makes the breaching of that security, it makes the person who breaches that security liable. And because this reflects pretty much what is in our Section 4, we are comfortable at this point in time that the bill contains the same level of security as the Income Tax Act. And for this, which the Income Tax Act also speaks to bills to which the board has control over, and the Property Tax Act would be one such bill. So at the moment, we don't foresee any issues because we think the legislation treats with it in a way that makes us comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Before I pass to Member Endorsing, I just have some quick questions. The first is to the Commissioner, Acting Commissioner. Is this the first time that property tax is being linked to valuation?
I would say yes. Valuation, prior to the Property Taxes Act, valuation rule was merely based on referral from the Board of Inland Revenue on matters of uncertainty as the valuation of a property.
Right.
Okay. Now, valuation have a more direct role. So, Inland Revenue have assessment rules based on the assessment rules based on the Land and Building Taxes Act. With this new act, valuation is responsible for creation of this new rule.
Right. And in the Land and Building Taxes arrangement, the assessment was not based on the valuation of the property.
No.
Okay, so that's the first question. The second question is that, is this the first time property tax is being collected by municipal corporations?
No. No, land and building taxes was collected by the municipal, the various corporations.
Okay, all across the 14 corporations across the country? Yeah, my colleagues are saying yes, so we could move on. Right, Mr. Reddy? Bidoy, sorry?
Prior to the Property Tax Act, right, the boroughs and the cities collect what we call house rates. the outskirts of those properties collect land and building taxes under the districts. The corporation and the boroughs have their own assessors who assess the amount of tax payable for those property. In our case, which is the districts, the valuation division will give us a taxable value, it's called ATV, annual taxable value, and we will take 7.5% of that figure. And
that is in the new arrangements?
No.
That is the historical
position? Yes, the land and building
right.
taxes.
Okay. Now the third question is I think what Member Timal was getting at. It's not just the provisions in the bill and in the existing legislation relating to security and confidentiality, but from a practical point of view, who have these persons who would take the oath, for example, or have these persons who would handle confidential information, have they been identified, or what is the process being used for identification, and is the BIR involved or going to be involved in that process?
No, normally, even though the Act states that the municipal corporation can perform their duty without any significant risk, the BIR would want to ensure that there are certain safeguards to ensure that confidentiality of information.
Right. And what Member Timal was getting at is, have you been involved in any of the corporations? Have you been involved with any of the corporations in developing these safeguards, in identifying the staff who would be handling confidential information, and that from a practical point of view?
Not at this time. The process hasn't been started as yet.
Okay. Member Indar Singh?
Thank you, Chairman. And I think that you zeroed in on the issue of security and confidentiality, because the success of this rally would really lie in operationalization. And I heard Ms. Gibson indicated that she was very satisfied that with in the section of the bill 77.3, that it will give her the necessary satisfaction that persons may be subjected to penalties. But I want to ask from a BIR point of view, and in liaising to, or the flow of information between BIR and the respective municipal corporation will be transmitted through what we would call 21st century IT. Is that going to happen?
When I look at the bill, and I see that the municipal corporation will be responsible for collecting their taxes, and in addition to that, they will then forward to, they didn't state clearly to whom, in section 79.2, who they will submit to take follow-up action on any arrears of property tax. We presume it is the BIR. Yeah. Mm-hmm. However, the BIR is charged with the power to collect these arrears. But there could be an issue if the BIR were to pursue a particular arrears, and during that period of time, the person, the taxpayer, were to pay that debt to the corporation, and there's no communication or effective communication, timely communication between the municipal corporation and the BIR.
My point really, let us say from the data that is lodged, let us say in the BIR, based on after assessment and all, and penalties, whatever accrues from a financial sum. What is the security provisions that may be, are you up to date? Are you looking in the direction of improving your security provisions so that it may prevent what we call hacking, alteration of records, and so on from a database point of view? We are living in the 21st century, and at the end of the day, hacking is a buzzword. We have seen what it can do to cripple financial system or alter records from a fraudulent point of view. And so, is the BIR going in that direction from a security point of view?
If I may answer that question in two parts. At the moment, the assessment rules are hard copy. Yes, they are hard copy. So in the sense of securing them in the way that you are speaking about in terms of technology, at the moment, that has not come up for discussion because, as I've said, they are hard copy. With respect to the BIR's general security provisions, the system that we use, Gentax, is generally secure. Changes cannot be made without leaving traces. You can track every change that is made. There are security provisions. At the moment, it has not been discussed whether we would be moving the assessment rule to that online platform. And part of that is because we don't generally share information from that online platform to other outside departments or divisions. With respect to the assessment rules, these have been shared before with the corporations and the boroughs, which was how they were able to collect taxes. But in terms of any specific security arrangements for these rules, we don't have anything in place at the moment.
As you tell me that, I am sure, having listened, I don't know if, I mean, you are existing in Trinidad and Tobago, and you know of the scenarios. Only yesterday, I saw police conducted a raid somewhere in Kuva. In my constituency, Mr. Rambarat seems to have information. You know, ministers these days have a lot of information at their disposal. And there was, it is alleged that there was an ID mill and land fraud and so on. And this is what I'm trying to zero in on. And from the point of view, whether it is in, we know for a fact that, and I've heard stories at the Ministry of Legal Affairs and so on, and I think without commenting too, in your particular ministry. So I am trying to ask the question, are we going in a state of preparedness really to going in that direction to safeguard the legitimate landowner and so on in the country?
Let me just let me just add to that. When the reason I asked about the existing and the past practice in terms of information shared with corporations and so on. When we debated the amendment to the Valuation Act, I remember temporary Senator Big raised the issue because in the amendment there was provision for the information that would be on the form, which would be used for the valuation, and on that form you had personal information, of course, and also information relating to the title to the land, the deed number, and so on. And Senator Big, he was temporary senator for that sitting, raised the issue of security, the possibility of land fraud, and so on, which is along the lines what once you are sharing personal information, it's not that the information cannot be obtained elsewhere, but you're sharing it in a manner that introduces risk. The question I think my colleagues are getting at is, one, the information that is being shared now would include things that have not been shared in the past. Have you always shared information or personal information, contact information, title information? And secondly, if you say that the municipal corporations are not working off your platform, then it means that the question which automatically flows is whether they're creating their own platform, whether this is going to be boxes, reams and reams of paper being provided to them. How is the information being shared and managed by the municipal corporation in the context of security? But sharing of personal information, particularly land information in our current environment, has become a very risky thing.
Okay. Based on the Property Taxes Act, the Valuations Department is creating this assessment rule. This assessment rule, to the best of my understanding, is being done on a computerized manner. That information will be sent to Inland Revenue, which will be stored in Inland Revenue database. Inland Revenue will then use that information on their database to issue assessment notices, right? The Inland Revenue system is a fantastic system in that we do a lot of penetration tests to ensure that there's no hacking of information. Because we have lots of confidential information, lots of taxpayer information with big liabilities, different kinds of liabilities. So we want to ensure that our system withstand the test. Based on history, I don't think Inland Revenue had any issues of anybody penetrating Inland Revenue system thus far. So yes, we do penetration tests, and it gives us some bit of comfort that our system is secure. Now,
so, Commissioner, that is a good point. I think what my colleagues are asking is, when you forward, you're required to forward under the proposed 77.1 names, addresses, and assessed taxes. So when you forward that information to the municipal corporations, I believe what they've asked is, in what manner is it being forwarded? Is it reams of paper? Is it an electronic file that's being forwarded? That's the first thing. And secondly, how, maybe you don't know, but you should know. If anything, I think you answered this, but we want to just be clear. As far as you are aware, nothing has been done at the corporations in relation to the security with which this information will be held.
Definitely, the format of the information has to be worked out, and it will be based on how Inland Revenue would submit information to any other organization. For instance, if Inland Revenue have to send information to the US government or anywhere else, okay, how it will be sent. The information will be encrypted, and so that the whole system is secured.
The whole system is secured on your end. The question is, are you involved in any way in ensuring that the information is secure on the receiving end?
Right. And that is where our safeguards would come into place, to ensure that the information we send in is safe on their side, that they have the necessary safeguards before we send.
Right, and yet the next question is, you have not been involved with the corporations as yet on those safeguards?
No, not at this time.
Member Indar Singh?
And given the task at hand, and I know that I may be pressing you all a bit, do you envisage a time frame that is needed? Because that may get the system and the transmission of this information and the security checks and so on with the respective regional corporation, a safe time frame that you may need to get everything up to scratch?
At this time, I'm not aware of any provisions being made for that, or any project plan has been developed to implement such.
So you are saying that there is no collaboration between the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Local Government as it relates to this whole joint select, or not joint select, but local government reform then?
That information I don't have. I could find out from the Ministry of Finance whether or not there's any collaboration between the Ministry of Finance and local government as to that aspect of it.
Okay. And district revenue offices are very important for the ordinary person walking off the street and seeking to get his or her information and so on. Is the various district revenue offices under BIR up to scratch in terms of software, hardware, manpower, physical accommodation and so on in realizing this particular objective?
Yes, they are. At the moment, the district revenue offices, since the repeal of the Land and Building Taxes Act in 2009 and even prior, the district revenue offices started to collect normal taxes, corporation tax, business levy, income tax, PAYE. So we use the district revenue office as a, some of them is being used as a mini regional office, whereby we offer a number of other services at the district. So yes, the district are equipped in terms of facilities. We have a facilities management system whereby all queries pertaining to a district is logged into that system, and it is addressed in a timely basis to ensure that there is no closure of office for facilities issues.
Member Amin?
Yeah, Chairman, I don't want us to, this committee's purpose is to look at all angles of especially impediments, or to impede the various agencies from implementing the act. I don't think it's correct to say that things are ideal with the facilities of the district revenue offices. You have had issues where some of the offices had to be relocated because of poor conditions. Some were reopened. I'm not sure if all were reopened. In fact, yesterday in the Senate, there was a matter on the adjournment that was raised concerning the district revenue office in the Port of Spain or Lavantil area, where people had to go to Tunapuna and Arima to make their payments and so on. That too, I think, is interesting for the committee to note, because if there are challenges with your accommodation, with the present responsibilities you have, certainly increasing those responsibilities would have an impact on your accommodation. So even if you are not in a position now to make a statement to the committee, I would like you to consider that in your written submission that you can send to the committee even after today's hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Member Timal?
Yeah, Mr. Videsi, I'm glad you raised the issue of lack of clarity with regards to arrears, as stated in the bill. But what I would like to ask the Board of Inland Revenue is if you can deliberate on the matter, right? And if you could forward your recommendations in writing to the committee in terms of how do we address this lack of clarity. If you have distinct recommendations that clearly delineates the responsibility between the Board of Inland Revenue and the corporation, we would appreciate that, that information. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Member Richards, followed by Member Hussain.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you. I want to change gears a bit to the representatives of the Office of the Commissioner of State Lands in terms of Section 35F, where the division of the corporation with responsibility for spatial planning and building inspection shall be responsible for, among other things, implementation of strategic regional planning and development in alignment with national strategies. Also in 35F, E, F, and G, conducting inspections of proposed developments and construction. F, investigating complaints and enforcing planning laws and regulations. G, issuing building approvals for applications for land development, not more than 20 lots, as well as for the construction of simple dwellings. Do you see, and I don't know which one of the members will be able to answer this, first of all, the process for application and identification of what will be classified from applicants as simple as opposed to complex dwelling should go to the corporation first, or the Ministry of Planning, or some other mechanism to avoid duplication and redundancy services where that is concerned, given the challenges that have been articulated by many groups where those applications and approvals are concerned.
Mr. Richards, I do not believe that that is the responsibility of the Commissioner of State Lands, the approvals and all of that. With responsibilities for approval of developments, Town and Country is normally the person to, the division to handle that.
Okay, let me rephrase the question then. In terms of the remit of particularly 35F, where the Commissioner of State Lands is concerned, how do you see your role being effectively integrated with the envisioned provisions in the bill, in particular relation to this section 35? And do you see any challenges with the integration of your present role in relation to the new provisions as envisioned in the bill that you would have in discussions identified?
Through the Chair, I am not aware that there has been any discussions. There have been any discussions. The Town and Country Planning, people make applications to the Town and Country Planning for development. If those developments are on state lands, it is only then that the Town and Country Planning will refer for the comments of the Commissioner. But at the end of the day, the Town and Country, they have their development plans. They have areas zoned for different kinds of development. And as far as I am aware, they would be the arbiter of that. So as far as I'm aware, and Commissioner hasn't indicated that any discussions are ongoing with respect to that at this time.
The Chairman, in his introduction, indicated, and I hope I'm not misquoting him, 22 or so agencies involved in the flowchart of these processes. Do you see your agency as facilitating better integration of those agencies and that flow in terms of the requirements of the bill as it stands?
The Commissioner of State Lands normally depend on agencies, including Town and Country, Commissioner Evaluations, Director of Surveys. All of these we normally would write to, but as to influencing them, we normally liaise with them and get their opinion. The Commissioner of State Land would request, no, whatever is happening on state land, we have to go to the authorities for permission. Influencing them, I'm not sure we can.
Not influencing them as much as the integration process for information flow. You say you have to interface with many agencies,
yes, all of them,
requesting information and passing on information. Is that process now effective, or as effective as you would like it?
No, that process is not as effective as we would like.
What are your major challenges in that process?
Our major challenge with that process is the time it takes. So if the Commissioner is to issue a lease, the Commissioner must get Town and Country approval, depending on what it is, ECC from the Environmental Management Committee, of valuations from the Commissioner of Valuations. If for some reason one of these processes takes long, and I would use the example of the Commissioner of Valuation, if we get a valuation today and it takes longer with Town and Country, or the CC, it means that our valuation is at a backdated date, it means that our leases have to wait. Cabinet will not approve any of our draft notes without certain information. So we depend on them, and yes, it affects us greatly.
Finally, before I defer to my colleague, is there a recommendation that you could give either now or in writing, based on your experiences, that could be included in any section in this bill, in particular 35F, that would improve that process and make it more efficient given the concerns or experiences you've just articulated, and what you think can be a better system for more efficient workflow?
Yes, I think we would like to do something in writing and send forward to the Commission.
Yeah.
Thank you. Member Ford, followed by Member Indarsing.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. When I came in, I heard Ms. Gibson mentioning about the system at the BIR as being still on a manual, hard copy paper work system. What is the timeline or plan for the BIR with regards to electronic online system as we go forward? Because when I say we are in 2019.
I think the Commissioner would have alluded to it when he said that we are waiting on the valuation rule. So that rule in itself, once valuation prepares its rule, it should be in electronic format and it would be forwarded to us, and then we would then integrate it with our system. Most of the things are electronic at the Board of Inland Revenue. It's just the assessment rules that we would have sent to the corporations in the past would have been hard copy.
Okay, I know Member Hussain has been waiting to ask a question. Member Hussain?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Richards beat me to the question. It was just for the Commissioner of State Lands. So the lengthy time it takes to get these processed. It takes a lot of time. And I want to know if things were in place to improve on the, sometimes 6 years, sometimes 10 years. So I wanted something unanswered. Follow up on your question.
If I could interject, the ministry is putting things in place to computerize their records. I know several other ministries are in a similar state where you may be partially computerized, partially hard copy, so we could all understand that. And the ministry has 2 systems in place. I'm not sure if some of you would be familiar with the GIS system that the ministry has. They also have a document management system that came on stream last year. And we have started computerizing the commissioner's records, and that will be phased into other aspects of the ministry as well. And we also, but the majority of our data lies with the GIS. And you ask about national strategy, international standards. You also refer to spatial planning. And if I could just put in a bit of perspective, the GIS, which is the strongest part of our database, with the recent hurricane that occurred in Abaco, I had a relative there. We called, the person was reported missing, and they asked us for her GPS coordinates. And if you could understand, if you could picture it, that there are no road names, there are no buildings. And a computer works in a similar manner. The computer does not look for River Road with the 20 river roads that are in Trinidad. The computer looks for that international standard, that universal language. And that universal language allows us to speak across the board to different ministries. So a GIS implemented in the BIR, a GIS implemented in the ministry, a GIS implemented in planning allows us to have that universal or international conversation. So the ministry is more advanced in terms of their GIS database. I will ask my colleague to expand on the number of data that we have. And we are integrating that into our document management, and that allows us to be ready to integrate when Town and Country now implements their necessary systems to integrate regarding the bill. So I will ask my colleague to expand.
Just as a matter of curiosity, through your chair, and this may or may not have relevance to the business in terms of your data confidentiality and your data security systems. Is there any exchange of information between your division and international agencies like Google and Waze, who seem to have a pretty robust outlook on our land use or our GIS data in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of their location, geolocation, and guidance systems?
Well, fortunately for us, the GIS is a standard software. We use ArcGIS. The Esri, that's the company that has that software, the vendors, do allow an online platform. It's called ArcGIS, where we can access their online data, and if we choose to publish our data publicly. So at present, we do have data published. It is not public, but when it is published, we can share with, for example, we share with LSA. LSA utilizes our web service that is published, but has security embedded that we can turn on and off layers. So the data exists within our IT system, but we can share over the web some aspects of it, but we still retain ownership of it. And that platform allows it, it's already built in. So that's fortunate for us, that's the system that we use.
Member Hussein?
I have seen this in the public service. Things take long, really long, years, sometimes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Actually, I have been in San Fernando and at the ministry where a simple thing like getting rid of vehicles in the Ministry of Agriculture, in the police service, in the whatever corporation, take 10 years, 12. I leave San Fernando, over 10 years, they can't clear up some vehicles. As the same thing happening in the Commissioner of State Lands, in the BIR, everywhere. Things take 5 and 6 years, and I get complaints, so I know. And I'm not blaming nobody, but the system. So you as the leaders and the heads of the system could do something with the people under you to make sure, ensure, you don't have to take 2 weeks, but at least it could take 6 months or 8 months, as the case might be. That is my contribution, and I have seen it happen. A border surveillance take 15 years. I leave, you know that? I leave San Fernando with some derelict vehicles causing mosquito and vermin, and it's still there. And it's happening in the police service. It's happening everywhere. It's the system, and we need to improve the system. We're talking about bringing government, local government, closer to the people, and we want this to happen. And it will happen because everybody wants it to happen. But if the system don't change, we are at the same point where we started off.
Thank you, member. So we proceed in this order. I know Ms. St. George had something to say, followed by Mr. Indar Singh, Ms. Amin, and Member Timal, and Member Robinson Regis.
If I may, to add to what my colleague, Ms. Melville just said, we at the ministry have a fully functional enterprise GIS, which has 90,699 parcels to date. We have integrated that with an electronic document management system that caters for about 5,000 files that is linked to the commissioners, tenants, and occupiers. The integration of the two systems is done by GPS coordinates as the backbone, that international standard, as well as we incorporate an GIS ID that allows that integration between the systems.
Yeah, and if I may add, the goal of it is towards the public. At the end of the day, we want to improve service delivery. And in improving service delivery, we realize that we do have to integrate ICTs. And so this is just a step that the ministry is taking towards improving that service delivery. And it will take us time. It's a lot of records, but it is being done.
Member Indar Singh.
Chairman, what is if I could find out from your office, the Commissioner of State Land, what is the existing relationship with the respective regional corporations as it relates to land use and research, as it relates to lands that may fall under the Commissioner of State Land office, and let us say a regional corporation wants to utilize a particular piece of land within its, the geography of the corporation?
You are asking what happens if the corporation wants to utilize a piece of state land. In most cases, the corporation would write to the Commissioner of State Land requesting permission or requesting that the land be vested with them, and they would justify what use they're going to put to the land. We would then do a search to make sure the land is not vested with somebody else, and then respond to the corporations.
And that process takes approximately how long?
Sometimes it has been taking a little while because our title search with Register General, we have had some challenges in dealing with accessing information from Register General. We are working on that. We have had meetings with the Register General so that our title clerks would be able to do these searches in a much faster manner.
Member Amin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is to the Commissioner of State Lands, and it has to do with containment and enforcement when it comes to illegal structures on state lands. We have had regional corporations are the first port of call for complaints for any illegal structure, whether it is a signpost or a building, or any structure that has not gotten approval. Because some of the lands, some of it can be referred to highways, the highways division. If it's on the highway, LSA is responsible for certain settlements as indicated in their act. They have a schedule, and those settlements are dealt with by LSA. But state lands that do not fall under the Land Settlement Agency, regional corporations have to work with the Commissioner of State Land for those structures to be removed. Many times it takes so long to get some action that these structures mushroom. Somebody may start selling in a tent, and before long they cast a floor, and then they build a shed, and it continues, and then you have a whole range of activities taking place that could endanger the public. So my question is, in the present legislative framework, you have challenges. Are there any recommendations that you can make to be included to beef up your ability, when I say the state's ability, including regional corporations' ability, to treat with illegal structures and regulating and containment?
Thank you. With relation to the corporations and the Commissioner of State Lands and illegal structures, in the first instance, if an illegal structure is built on state land within the corporation, normally the corporation is the first body that will assist in doing demolition. We have had challenges in many of the corporations that basically said, no, that is not our responsibility, or for one reason or another, take a step back. When we ask for assistance, the corporations, there are some who literally say, yes, they work with us, we send our inspectors, and we get it done. Out of the corporations, 2 or 3 assist us, the rest of the corporations take a step back and say, no, we are not getting involved in this. With this bill, I would like to see that the corporations now take responsibilities for the areas that they have to treat. They need to manage their like recreational grounds and stuff, make sure there's no encroachment. If they see a building, if they can, deal with it. If not, refer it to us and work together with us on the same page to deal with the matters.
Just to clarify, right? The property of the corporation, such as recreation facilities, it is very clear that the corporation is the custodian and the corporation would do the enforcement there. Yes. But in other areas where you have open lands, the Commissioner of State Land has the authority to do containment or to remove illegal structures. Is it that you have a manpower problem, or is it that you don't have the legislative teeth for it? Or is it that you're suggesting that the regional corporation be the enforcer for all illegal structures and state lands?
Sorry, in the first instance, yes, I believe that the corporation could deal with the illegal structures. in some of the cases, even on state lands, the corporation wants, because remember, the corporation is supposed to give approval for any building on the land. And if there's a building, the corporation should deal with it. The Commissioner of State Land do have the authority to come in and demolish. We have some challenges in the equipment because we do not have a demolition crew. So in order to do demolition, we would need a demolition crew with a backhoe and whatever. We have recently gotten, well, an MOU, which we are working on with the Army, that we could go, because in most cases with squatters, you tend to have a violent situation where people are not happy that we're demolishing their properties. We do serve notices. We have inspectors and we have enforcement officers who would go. In many of the cases, because we do not have the equipment to demolish, the squatters just continue. Squatting is such a nice, not a nice thing. Squatting is dealt with in such a way that our officers work 8 to 4. Sometimes on an evening between 4 and whatever, on a long weekend, you pass by and you see a structure. Mm-hmm. If there's a structure and our staff is there, they will go and they will stop them. But because many of these persons know that we don't work on weekends or on public holidays, they tend to build it then.
And do you have a role to play in recommending areas to be included in the schedule of settlements to the LSA to be regularized, where you have a number of squatters living in an area, and rather than demolishing all, you put it to the LSA to regularize? What is your system to do that?
No, we don't have a role to play in regularizing persons. That is with the Land Settlement Agency.
But do you recommend settlements to your minister, for instance, your line minister, who would then perhaps pass it to be included in the schedule? Do you play any role at all in, not in regulating, but in recommending certain areas where you see a lot of squatters starting to settle, for example? Do you recommend it be included in the schedule for LSA?
Yes, Chair, would pass this to Ms. Farrell.
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Amin. The issue is not so much of recommending new areas to be included under the Land Settlement Agency designated areas. A lot of these areas are areas that are designated for agriculture or highway development. And for example, the new highways that are being built, there's been a rush of persons going to squat, presumably with the expectation at some point their properties will be acquired. So the issue is really the capability of the commissioner to be able to demolish these structures, which the commissioner does not have. And in other cases, even when the commissioner may have served notices and people don't move, the commissioner has to take them to court, which makes a mockery of the whole thing, because you send the matter to court, it gets put off 20 times. By the time the court hears the matter, there's a 3-story structure. So that whole business about the commissioner not being able to exercise the authority vested in the Act by having to go to court, that is one of the things that needs to be looked at, not just simply increasing the areas, because then the whole country will be under the LSA as a squatting area. Okay.
Member Timal?
Just to come back to the GIS matter with the Commissioner of State Lands, I was just wondering, in terms of the development of your system and all of those things, in terms of coordination with other stakeholders, because like WASA, TNTEC, all of these bodies, what I find worth noting is that, you know, we have all these different ministries, all these different agencies, and everybody is doing their own GIS system. And maybe the happiest person out of it is the software vendors, who are probably selling the same software to all these different agencies. And if there's an attempt to sort of link with all these other agencies, so within your system there's built-in information that is going to facilitate not only your internal work, but it's going to facilitate the whole approval process with all the entities and everything if you are taking that initiative.
I do agree that is needed. What we do capture is the unique identification for other systems. For example, mapping and surveys has a unique ID, a UPRN, so we try to capture that. There are other entities that have unique IDs. In terms of everyone coming on stream, I know that there was an initiative, the National Spatial Data Infrastructure, and that took into consideration an enterprise-wide for the entire island licensing. So I know that things are in place. It is not specifically in the Ministry of Agriculture, but the Ministry of Agriculture is a key stakeholder in that. There was conversations before. I know it is something that a lot of persons are open to. Sharing data is what we all look forward to. It would reduce a lot of duplication. So I know that things are in place for that to go forward. And we do share with other agencies, and each time we share, we tweak our database to ensure that future sharing is easier.
Okay, thank you. I'm a bit relieved to hear that.
Okay, as we get ready to close this session, I invite my colleague, Member Robinson Regis.
Mr. Chairman, and good morning. I apologize for being late. I didn't realize I would have to share with my friend from the opposition, but I'm very happy to do that.
I'm always accommodating.
Yeah, I realize
Very
that. Yes,
comfortable.
thank you. I just wanted to make the point, though, that as we move through this process, we recognize that the Vision 2030 has as one of its key recommendations the fact that ministries and agencies must work together to achieve their purpose. One of the things that the Ministry of Planning and Development has been putting in place is a project that is in a pilot, moving to a pilot stage, where we will be able to share data with Commissioner of State Lands, with the Ministry of Agriculture itself, with Town and Country Planning Division, and with the local government agencies, so that when we're doing any approvals or projects, everybody will be on the same page at the same time. Now, in the Registrar General's office, they have had a project that they have been doing for many years to identify each parcel of land, and former PS Gantom Farrell will be very familiar with that. And I'm hoping that that project can really come to an end soon, so that each parcel of land will be identified and each parcel of land will have that unique identifier number. The objective, Mr. Chairman, is to ensure that we are not all doing things in silos, because that is where problems are created. Because each agency is doing something different and we're not all speaking to each other. So this project is intended to deal with that to some extent. Now, it is clear in the legislation, and my colleague here pointed it out, which is at clause 35F, where it says, conducting research in relation to factors which affect land use, engaging in future-based planning for sustainable use of resources, including land, and other such functions. So it means if this piece of legislation is to work effectively, we all have to cooperate and make sure that we all on the same page. We can't be doing things separately. And I want to endorse what Mrs. Gantom Farrell said about us just developing a squatting country, because that kind of lawlessness cannot be allowed to continue. And it means, therefore, that we must have an effective way of dealing with it. And I think we also need to have a discussion with the court, so that they understand that the length of time that it takes to get these things done really is deleterious to the development of the country. And we have a similar problem when we have enforcement notices at Town and Country. It just takes forever to be heard, and the people just continue being lawless. I have to say that it is really lawlessness, because they know that they have been served, but they just continue because they know that there is no way of doing it in a quick enough time for them to stop what they're doing. And the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act will also assist with making sure that the corporations work together with town and country planning, and we have a proper mechanism for getting these developments put in place. I just needed to put that on the table. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the representatives of the Board of Inland Revenue and the Commissioner of State Lands. I know both of you have written submissions that you have promised, and we look forward to receiving those submissions. At this time, we would suspend the meeting for 5 minutes to facilitate the changeover to the representatives of the trade unions and the Municipal Police Service. I thank you very much.
Log on to ParlView. It's the live stream of the Parliament channel, 24-hour free video on demand of all parliamentary sittings and committee meetings. You can rewind, pause, or go to a specific contribution whenever you want, from your home, office, or on the go. Log on now to ParlView at parlview.ttparliament.org.
Want to see your parliamentarians in action but not close to a television? No problem. Log on to our YouTube channel, ParlView. Go to www.youtube.com/ParlView using your laptop, tablet, or smartphone. It's that easy to keep up with all the sittings of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and live Joint Select Committee meetings and even media briefings. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to receive a notification when we are streaming live events. So visit our YouTube channel, ParlView, to keep current with all our parliamentary happenings. The Parliament Chamber is open for guided tours. Come learn about the history of the Parliament, see where your Member of Parliament sits, or you can even hold a mock debate. Our tours, which are free of charge and even include educational videos, are a great vacation activity for youth groups or groups of any age. To book your tour, call our Corporate Communications and Productions Department at 624-7275, extension 2318 or 2520, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or you can email us at parlcorpcom@ttparliament.org.
Words and terms, a parliamentary glossary. Casting vote. A casting vote is the deciding vote according to the Speaker or President of the Senate, or in committee to the Chairman, in the event of a tie. The Speaker or President of the Senate or the Chairman may vote only in order to avoid a deadlock, and traditionally votes so as to maintain the status quo. Caucus. A group composed of all members and senators of a given party. Censure motion. A motion condemning the government, a minister, or a private member for some position which they hold or for some action or lack of action for which they are responsible. Words and terms, a parliamentary glossary. For more on the Parliament's glossary, visit our website at ttparliament.org or follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Good morning. We resume the 10th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2019. This Joint Select Committee was appointed by the Parliament to conduct the appropriate discussions with stakeholders in the context of a bill that has been laid in the House of Representatives, laid with the intention of reforming the local government process in Trinidad and Tobago. We have with us today, apart from the members of the committee itself, the representatives from Amalgamated Workers Union, the representatives from National Union of Government and Federated Workers, better known as NUG,
and we also have representatives from the Municipal Police Service. I would first invite my colleagues on the committee to introduce themselves, and then I'd ask the representatives from the different entities to introduce themselves. And I want to acknowledge that the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union representatives have just arrived from South Trinidad. So, members of the committee, I invite you to introduce yourself. I am Clarence Rambarat. I'm the chairman of the committee. I now turn to my colleague on the right.
Good morning, everyone. Esmond Ford, member of the committee.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Khadija Amin. I'm a member of the committee.
Good morning. Daniel Duki is my name, member of the committee.
Good morning, Kazim Hussein, member.
Good morning, Camille Robinson Regis, member.
Good morning, Rudranath Narsingh, member.
Morning, Derup Timal, member.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Richards, member.
Thank you very much. I'll start with Mr. Lambert.
I said a pleasant good morning to you, Mr. Chairman, and other honorable members of the Joint Select Committee. My name is James Lambert, and I'm the President General of NUGFW. We want to thank you for the invitation that has been extended to us.
Pleasant good morning. My name is Christopher Street, First Deputy President General of the National Union of Government and Federated Workers, and it is a pleasure to be given this opportunity. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Michael Prentice, President General of Amalgamated Workers Union. I'm happy to be here this morning.
Good morning. My name is Cassandra Tommy Dabro, General Secretary of the Amalgamated Workers Union. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and to members of the committee and to all gathered. My name is Steve Cupid Theodore. I'm the Labor Relations Officer for the Amalgamated Workers Union.
Good morning. I am Janicia Rogers, Chief Labor Relations Officer for the Amalgamated Workers Union, and I am pleased to be a part of this morning's proceedings.
Morning, Kenny Odin, Advisor to the Amalgamated Workers Union.
Good morning, Heston Lambert, Treasurer of the NUGFW and also President of the Local Government Section. It's a pleasure being here this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Clifton Simpson. I am the second Deputy President General of National Union of Government and Federated Workers, and I would also extend my greetings and thank you for being here, for allowing us to speak this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, and my brothers, union brothers. My name is Joseph Phillip, President General for Contractors and General Workers Trade Union. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Ermin Big Mead, General Secretary of the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union. It's an honor to be here.
Pleasant good morning to the Chair and members of the committee. My name is Arthur Stewart, Trustee of the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good morning to the Chair and members of the committee. I am Hazel Wilson, Executive Member of Contractors and General Workers. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasant good morning to the Chair and members of the committee. My name is Akiva Wilson, Executive of Contractors and General Workers Trade Union.
Thank you, and the Municipal Police.
Good morning. My name is Erica Preto, Superintendent of Police for REMA under the Management of Statutory Authority Service Commission.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Dave Bridgemohan, Inspector of Police, Municipal Police Service, Siparia, under the Public Service.
Good morning to the Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Glenn Shah, Superintendent of Police, Port of Spain City Police. I am the AMLA of the Statutory Authority Service Commission. I welcome the pleasure to be here this morning to present.
Thank you very much. I want to invite Member Robinson Regis to begin proceedings on behalf of the committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity. Mr. Chairman, I would like to start basically by asking two questions, one to the members of the union and the other to the members of the police service. With regard to the members of the union, there is a concern that had been raised previously regarding the changeover, as it were, that would come with this piece of legislation. There had been some concern expressed with regard to exactly how the unions would operate or have their members operate, given the changes that are expected and given the increased responsibility that would come upon workers when this legislation comes into effect. The committee want to understand exactly how you see your position and also how you anticipate that this increased responsibility may affect your workers, or whether it will in fact enhance the work that is to be done by them. To the members of the municipal police, one of the concerns that has been occupying our attention is the issue of the fact that some of you are under the statutory authorities and some are under the public service. And so sometimes that creates a bit of a conflict. And also, where does your command come from? Because that has created some problems in terms of to whom do you report, or who is the person who is in charge? Is it the commissioner of the police? Is it the CEO? Is it the mayor or chairman? Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Minister Regis for the question posed, because she spoke in terms of enhancement of the workers. As far as we are concerned, as members of the union and representatives of the workers, out of the 14 municipal corporations and regional corporations, we represent 12 out of the 14. So we are very accurate with the operations of local government. And as far as we have read in this bill does not give any enhancement. It jeopardizes the role and functions of the workers and the union. This bill has not shown or make any provisions whatsoever as it relates to the development of workers or the entire community of which local government represents. We could, Mr. Chairman, we have taken the opportunity to read the bill. And in this bill, we could summarize it in 3 minutes. What we have observed in this bill, the bill is very dictatorial, and as we say it, it only empowers elected councillors. That is all the development, with all the change of titles, who become municipal director of health, director of finance, and so forth. There is nothing, absolutely nothing in the bill that enhances the development of the local government and its workers. The unions is also being deleted. The CPU, we have not seen anything. So our question here this morning, we want to know who are the employers, the employer pertaining to daily rated workers in the municipal and regional corporation. When we read provisions of the bill, it does not say anything. The point remains is, when I look at certain aspect of it, you speak in terms here, Mr. Chairman, that yes, there is a municipal council and an executive council. You have an executive council, and then you speak in terms of the chief executive officer. How does that correlate? How are going to give, because certain aspect of the bill makes provision for the mayor will be given directive and therefore supervises the CEO. So when directives is given, where is that separation? As we stand now, you have the council who are the policy decision makers of the council. And in light of that, the CEO has the responsibility of the day-to-day operation, and also she's the secretariat to that. But he or she operates under regulations coming from Service Commission. We are saying now, who are going to employ? Who are the employer of the CEO? Will that be a political appointment? So therefore, there are several areas of this bill that needs to be amended. And in summary, all that we will be saying in summary, ask the government to withdraw this and let us have something meaningful for the development of local government.
Mr. Prentice? Yeah, proceed.
Thank you very much. Comrade Lambert, is it that you will be preparing a paper to indicate the sections, the clauses, or you're saying the entire?
No, we have certain aspects and clauses that we have looked into,
right,
of which we will emphasize the reasons why we are saying that. Okay. And if it necessitates that we have to make a written submission, we are willing to so do.
But today you will
But
point
yes,
out
I
the
will
clauses.
identify certain areas of which I have referred to.
Thank you.
Mr. Prentice?
Yeah, good morning. Once again, I really want to share my appreciation for the invitation for the Amalgamated Workers Union to be represented here this morning and to make a contribution in this regard, some of which my comrade referred to just a minute ago. Also, some of the concerns that we have in relation to some of the things that is captured in the bill. And one of the major concerns for us is that where we see the rights of the union in the bill, we went through the bill and identify where the rights of the union seem to be seriously eliminated from its free collective bargaining process that has been done under the CPO for many years. We observe that inside of this bill, it appears that we now want to legislate the rights and collective bargaining to trade unions representing the workers within the working environment. And we have a serious concern about this, and we are asking that these things seriously be looked at, and as we go through the process this morning, we will then be able to identify some other areas in which we believe that we should share some additional information on going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Phillip from Contractors and General Workers Trade Union.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when we watch the bill in its entirety, we at San Fernando City Corporation, we felt very strongly that the bill didn't take into consideration the extended boundary that we have. And in other words, San Fernando is boasting at a seam because we have additional boundaries. We have the extension of boundaries, what the case might be, and nowhere in that bill make provision for these things. So we are very concerned about that, Mr. Chairman, at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. The second question posed by Member Robinson Regis was to the Municipal Police. I'll give you the opportunity to respond.
And I want to say thanks for the opportunity for us coming here this morning to present and make a contribution in respect to the bill. What you see before the table here in terms of the true representative, we have persons from both the Statutory Authority Service Commission and from the Public Service Commission. When we look at the proposed amendment in the bill in respect to the municipal police in paragraph AF, what we see is what presently existing right now in respect to having two commissions. That is, the Public Service Commission will make regulation for officers under the umbrella of the Public Service Commission, whereas the officers under the Statutory Authority Service Commission, the Statutory Authority Service Commission will make regulation for them. This is one of the major problems that has been contributing to the growth of municipal police, in the sense that it caused some disparity in terms of the day-to-day functioning of the municipal police. We see that the Public Service Commission, in terms of the recruiting policy, they took 3 O-levels in terms of the entry level to recruit new police officers, whereas the Statutory Authority Service Commission embarked on 5 O-levels. Some of the recruiting processes is different in the sense that we have to undergo persons under the statutory authority like polygraph, the agility test, and so on and so on. Whereas my colleagues on the other side don't have to go through these processes, right? So it caused a breakdown in terms of the recruiting policy, where
Mr. Charles, what is being proposed? How do we we understand that we have two different entities, and we understand that there are differences in terms of the entry level and other things. But do you have a proposal?
Yes, Mr. Chair. What we propose is that looking at the cabinet minute in 2009, the then government proposed to have one central police service, to integrate the municipal police and make it a branch of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service under one structure, where you have a deputy commissioner will be in charge and report directly to the commissioner of police, to have one structural approach in terms of municipal police. And looking at that cabinet note, and we look at all the logistics in respect to, we see that this will solve most of the problem, not most, but all the problem in terms of the municipal police, where it will solve the problem of coming under one command structure, because as we speak currently, we have a ACP in charge, Assistant Commissioner of Police, but the Assistant Commissioner of Police is on contract. Now, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, in respect to governance of the under persons under the statute, the Public Service Commission, he have no autonomy. They don't recognize the post of the Assistant Commissioner of Police. So therefore, he have no running in terms of the that day-to-day activities. Likewise, in the Statutory Authority Service Commission, what we do is we follow the regulation, the 2014 Municipal Police Regulation, where the Assistant Commissioner play a little more active role. So you find there's disparity between the two commissions.
Okay, Mr. Charles, I want to ask my colleagues on the committee if there's anybody who have a question or issue to raise in relation to municipal police at this stage. Member Ford, Member Amin, Member
Yes, good morning again.
Good morning,
with regards to the municipal police, in terms of manpower that will be needed at each city, borough, and corporation, right? We know that they vary in sizes in terms of geographical land space and with regards to also human per capita. Have you all provided or have done any audit to know what will be the actual requirement at each one of these municipalities in terms of manpower, like for instance, Port of Spain? In order to manage Port of Spain, how many municipal police we need? Separia, 0.14, different ones by region. Have you all put together any documentation with regards to that you all can provide to the committee? May not be able to give the information now, right, because we cannot go through all 14, but with regards to providing it, have you all looked at
yes, sir, there is a cabinet minute where it is proposed, it has already been approved, 13 superintendents, 12 assistant superintendent of police, 27 inspectors, 64 police sergeants, 97 corporal, and 894 police constables. Right. Save and accept.
And you all are in agreement with that cabinet?
We are in agreement with it, save and accept that Port of Spain, whereas the strength in the 13 other areas would be up by 100, Port of Spain would see that they would have 100 more officers, seeing that they are the capital city. This has already been approved, and recruitment and training is on the way with a view to achieving this. However,
Mr. Bridgman, before you proceed, the last time we had a representative from the municipal police, he was quoting cabinet minute number and everything. Give us a lot of details, but this cabinet minute you referred to, is it the 2009 decision?
No, sir, this is the 2014, it's 1105-2016.
Right. I just wanted to put it in a particular context in terms of the year. Member Amin?
Mr. Chairman, coming out of that, my question is actually related to your capacity. Your manpower required is one thing. There is a lot of concern about the accommodation, the existing accommodation for municipal police officers in regional corporations. Some corporations, such as Shogunas, for instance, have their own station, but in many regions, it's very cramped, very insufficient, poor conditions. Do you also have recommendations to accompany your manpower recommendations with regards to accommodation, perhaps short medium and long term.
Thank you again, members. With regards to, I just had to clear up one part of
Sure.
Ma'am Camille Robinson-Regis. She wanted to get an answer as to our reporting structure. And I don't think we comprehensively state it as it is right now. And as it is right now, we have a chief executive officer who manages us administratively. We have an assistant commissioner of police who manages us operationally. And of course, we have a mayor who is assigned, or a chairman assigned to each of the municipalities who will make requests.
Ms. Brito,
yes,
just to be very clear, the chief executive officer, are you referring to the chief executive officer in the municipal corporation?
Yes, sir.
So you mean in each municipal corporation?
Yes, sir.
The officers, municipal officers are managed administratively by the CEO in that corporation?
Yes, sir.
And in each corporation, there is an assistant commissioner of police?
No, sir. The present assistant commissioner of police overall.
It's for all 14?
Yes. Operationally, he manages, gives advice, gives support, provides training, all that goes with it.
And this assistant commissioner of police covers all the officers who are either public service commission or statutory service commission.
With regards to operation, yes, with advice, but realistically speaking, the Public Service Commission doesn't give that full acknowledgement of our ACP.
Right.
But
so where disciplinary matters arise, for example, how is it addressed in the context of your structure and the reporting relationships you have been explaining?
so actually that is one of the weaknesses we experience right now. We do not have a disciplinary board in place, despite the fact that is mentioned in our regulations of 2014. We should have that in place, and it's something that's sadly missing, and we are unable to really give the proper control or discipline at this point in time. We are not saying the officers are disrespectful, but right now, that feature is not in place.
Now, the regulation you referred to is regulations made under the Supplemental Police Act?
No, sir. It is the regulations made under regulations of 2014. That was the new regulations that put in place to manage municipal police.
And those were regulations who was responsible for putting out the regulations? Is it?
Right now.
Is it the commissioner or?
No, the Statutory Authority Service Commission.
Right. So that's what I'm getting at. So those regulations, would it apply to the officers who are the responsibility of the Public Service Commission?
Let me ask my member from Superior to respond. His experience.
Mr. Chairman, the regulation is there, it is in force. We have been advised that the regulation is lawful for all municipal police throughout the 14 municipalities. We have not seen this. The public service, in our mind, has failed to enforce the municipal police service regulation, legal notice number 300, 2014, and as we speak, it continues. No disciplinary matter as it relates to the act, that the public service, they do their own thing.
Are you saying that there are no disciplinary matters relating to municipal officers before the Public Service Commission?
There might be, I'm not aware.
Okay, Member Indara Singh, followed by Member Richards.
If I could just, because I'm extremely confused, I just want some clarity before Member Indara Singh goes, because I'm not okura with all. Can someone indicate which of the corporations falls under the PSA and which under the statutory authority, and how that evolved to be so, if someone has that information, so I get a clear sense of how this evolved before I can even ask a question, because it's extremely confusing to me, so I'm sure the general public is extremely confused also, because it is a confusing situation.
Yes, sir. The municipalities that are under the Statutory Authority Service Commission are Port of Spain, San Fernando, Arima, and Point Fortin. They were the pioneers of municipal policing in the yesteryear and continues to. In 2003, 2004, the government at the time saw it fit to generalize and put policing into the regions. So we have all the regional corporation, inclusive of the Borough of Shoguanas. They all fall under the Public Service Commission, by extension, the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
Thank you. Member Dassing, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll come to the unions in a while, but Chairman, my colleagues, Member Amin and Ford, touched on it in terms of manpower and accommodation, because in recent times we have heard of 100 municipal officers coming into the respective regional corporations. And are you satisfied that there's existing accommodation which will house these 100 officers in keeping, for example, with the Occupational Safety and Health Act from a health and safety point of view? And also, when we talk about manpower and accommodation, also equipment in terms of enforcement. For example, two constituents of mine called me recently to tell me derelict vehicles were left by persons on streets in Couva, and it was impeding the flow of traffic. And they resorted to me as the Member of Parliament to see if the derelict vehicles can be removed. And when I engaged the CEO of the Couva Tabake Talparo Regional Corporation to get the municipal officers to intervene, I was advised that the corporation has no record to remove these vehicles. So from an enforcement point of view too, is it a question of equipment is one thing in relation to ensuring that the laws from a local government point of view are upheld?
Thank you for that question, sir. Is a combination of the present, contributing to the whole present structure is bad, right? Presently, we have no facilities to accommodate the increase in terms of the additional officers, the 100 officers, and in case of Port of Spain, the 200. Most of the present municipalities and corporations right now is in breach of the OSHAC, right? Because in terms of the present facilities, right, they don't have that accommodation right now to facilitate that volume of new officers. What we also see is that officers have been coming out from the academy with half uniform. They're not given the essential tools and equipment needed to carry out about their daily tasks.
And Superintendent Charles, you could clarify when you tell me half uniform?
They don't have all the requisite uniform, in the sense that some of them will come out, well, they're missing shirts, some of them don't have no boots, some of them have no caps, some of them have no buttons. Simple things like battors, they don't have no battors, they don't have no holsters. And I could go on and on and on and on. And even an important thing is a bulletproof vest. Right now, most of the existing municipalities don't have a bulletproof vest. Most of the bulletproof vests, what they have expires. Vehicles is a problem. Firearms is a problem. And when I link this now, I link it back to the structure in terms of the financing. Who control the funds, right? In terms of ensuring that the money is disbursed to buy the requisite uniforms and other items to the police.
Why I ask this question? Because there's a focus on the municipal police officers playing a very critical role in terms of what we would call community policing and law enforcement as it relates to the current state of crime in the country. So from a local government reform point of view, what you have told me here, we seem to be still in the starting blocks or the starting gates.
So, well, the Ola municipal police who was there before, we have that love, we had that passion for the drive. So in spite of we not having the requisite tools and equipment. We still go out in the communities with the assistance of the Trinidad Police Service. And again, I must say, since this new commissioner have come on board, he has since assisted us in things like uniform and other equipment that we need to go there and to perform the task. So we have been doing a substantial amount of work in terms of policing for the people, community policing, but under this present structure, it has been failing. Because, as I mentioned before, we don't have a budget. We have a ACP, but yet still the ACP is not really in charge in terms of ensuring that, that he acquired the necessary funding to ensure that things like uniforms and equipment and so on have been purchased, right? And again, we in a strong recruiting drive, we're able to attract the best suitable candidate to join the municipal police. But in order to retain them is a problem. Because, for instance, people come into accommodations, they're going out there, they're putting their life at risk, not without, you want them to perform the task, but they don't have the necessary tools and equipment to go out there and do it, and it's getting very demoralizing, and it's hard for people like the senior officers to empower these people each day.
Mr. Charles,
so they are being leaving and going across the street and they go police service.
Thank you very much. You started off with some bad news and you closed with some goodish news, but in the previous interaction with the municipal police, the committee recognized that the separation between the statutory authorities and the Public Service Commission naturally creates some problem. It's to answer Member Richards's question. It is historical, and in fact, it could be solved if our colleagues on the opposition side to change a reporting arrangement for the ultimate responsibility for municipal police requires the support of the opposition. It's one of the areas that requires a special majority. The bill in its current form does not require a special majority, but if we have to make changes in relation to the municipal police, that would require a special majority, and I hope maybe if we get to that point that my colleagues would support the bill in that form. I want to turn now to Mr. Prentice. And Mr. Prentice, you made a serious allegation against the bill by saying it interferes with the process of collective bargaining. I'm quite surprised to hear that. I've not seen that in the bill, but I give you the opportunity. I'll give you the opportunity to talk a little bit more. Specifically, if you could point us to the specific part of the bill that you believe interferes with your ability to bargain on behalf of your workers, and anything else in relation to the bill that you now want to explore.
Chairman, before
Member Indarsi.
Mr. Prentice
Go ahead, Mr. Member Indarsi.
Intervenes, because I've heard from Comrades Lambert and Prentice and Philip and so on. I would really want to get their views as it relates to sections, trying to find it here, I made some notes as it relates to 34A, as it relates new sections with respect to pension rights and scheme. That entire new amendment, and also 34 with respect to the grievance procedure and the 12th schedule and so on. Because given my previous incarnation and so on, I could see how it will impact on the collective bargaining process and so on, and the whole issue of successorship, and whether now the union will be called upon to bargain with each municipality, or would it be in totality and so on. So I would like to hear their comments and feedback.
Thank you very much, Member Indarsing. I don't know if that is where Mr. Prentice is about to take us.
Exactly. If we look at, for example, the union expresses dissatisfaction with the inclusion of Schedule 12 and Section 34F, dispute grievance procedures, disciplinary code, which is already enshrined in our collective agreement. Now, what happens here is that if we were to allow this bill to be passed with this inside of it, it means then that the process of free collective bargaining will now be in the bill as a law. And is it that the committee is saying that the trade unions must now come and ask the Parliament to preside over this as against what we already have in law in our collective agreements? Because this is part of our collective agreements in all the schedules for all the unions at this point in time. So it's a serious concern for us.
Okay, the point is taken. Are there other parts of the bill that you feel interfere with collective bargaining? If you do, Mr. Lambert.
Speaking about. And I just want to take the opportunity to emphasize a little further pertaining to the grievance procedure has been questioned and the disciplinary code. How could you have in the bill inserted what we have been negotiating every 3 years in our collective agreements and take it to deny the opportunity of the trade union to represent the workers every 3 years to make certain amendments as we may see it fit pertaining to that? As Brother Comrade Prentice have rightly said, when you take that and you turn it into law, you take that opportunity from the collective agreement without no consultation with the union. We were on the committee in the earlier stages. I have been on all 3 committees in the earlier stages. When it becomes to have a draft to send, we were thrown out. We never knew what was inserted in the draft. The only time we saw it is when you sent us the bill to be present here today.
Comrade Lambert, we understand the objection to 34B.
Yeah, but I also have, if you permit me, Mr. Chairman, a little footnote. As you speak in terms, you make 33A. The corporation shall have municipal and council and executive council. We have no problem. Let us say categorically. The trade union, and I could speak on behalf of all of us, we are not against the reform or transformation of local government. What we are against is the format about the bill that is being presented, because nothing hasn't been said in that same bill pertaining to productivity. And the salient question is, why, as I had said at the committee stage, why wasn't local government inserted into the Constitution in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago?
Well,
why?
Comrade Lambert,
that's a very important question, Mr. Chairman. I could draw to your attention your ministry. Agriculture is inserted, works is health, all of them is inserted. But you want local government to use as a football so the politician could kick it around when they want, do what they want, how they want, and you bring it now to make law. And you're taking what we have negotiated and continues to do to put it in the bill to make law. So what you have done, stifled the representation of the union.
I am happy you raised the issue of productivity.
Yes, it's not there.
Is there?
It's not there.
Well, the government will happily insert provisions relating to productivity in the bill.
We need that. The entire country, not daily rated workers or the Ministry of Local Government, the entire country is needed for a policy on productivity.
What specifically does the union have in mind? Now, I know my colleague, Member Hussein, is anxious to get in a word, and so too my colleague, I think everybody. So what does the union have specifically in mind for this bill in relation to this issue of productivity?
We would want to be given the opportunity to have a written submission pertaining to all of that. Okay. But I want to draw to your attention, as I mentioned, 33E, where there will be a corporation, a municipal council, and an executive council. And grave concerns to us. If you go on page 16, subsection subject to section 34A, corporation, it gives its responsibilities. And it says here under 34A, employ such person, that is the responsibility of the council, the municipal council. Employ such persons as it considers necessary for the due performance of its function. And in B, it says set the qualifications for the posts in the corporation. And C, discipline and dismiss its employees. How could you put by law that where you would have, we have a certificate given to us by agents of government to give us the rights to negotiate and to represent workers. And you place in a bill that makes it law because it's a simple majority, as you have alluded to. If it was, it had needed, you know, a special majority, well, then we would have been happy because that's certain the other side would not have supported that. No, you can't, because it does nothing more than to give power to the Congress. And it says that our concerns are, who is making the terms and conditions as it relates to the daily rated workers? How then could you give to a politician that's elected 3 or 4 years, as this bill will say 4 years, to hire and fire, to dismiss? So you have thrown out the collective agreement that is negotiated between the employer, which is deemed to be the CPO, and the majority trade unions that represent the various corporations. Where is collective bargaining comes in? How we could do that? This is the reason why I said from my discourse earlier on, it is dictatorial. The mayor hires, he fires, he supervises, he does everything. Listen, this bill is so atrocious in its old building here that you know what they did? The mayor, normally when you are about to select standing committees, you are being sent and say who should be the mayor or the chairman and the vice chairman. And the councillors, I have been a councillor for 10 years, so I have a good idea. The councillors are given the responsibility to elect the chairman of the standing committees. Now you have placed that into the hands of the mayor. So the mayor has the entire power and authority taken away from the statutory commission to run the council. So if the mayor is not in favor of Lambert being a councillor, I can't be on the standing order committee. And in light of that, those 4 persons who will be with him and the vice chairman, they form the executive of the council. So that is dictatorial.
Okay, thank you. I want to invite my colleagues who would like to ask a question or make a contribution. Let's start with Member Indar Singh.
Chairman, I want to go to the issue of where the divisions are being created and look at trying to find in the bill where there will be this division now, which will look after the maintenance of schools and so on in the respective municipalities. From a union's point of view, given your experience and so on, do you think you have the expertise, you have the equipment, you have existing currently, which will allow really a genuine input from the respective regional corporation to realize these desired goals?
And the answer is no. The answer is no. We cannot even maintain. We do not have the tools and the equipment with what presently exists. Now you have given this additional operation like schools, local roads that you have. The question arises here, and I could remember vividly, and I told the minister he's here, how are we going to deal to give all these extended responsibilities to the various regional corporations? And you're now saying there no longer will be a Ministry of Local Government, but it will be placed under the Ministry of Finance, which will put us in a much better position. The question, why and how? Where is the money? What fixed amount of money that is coming from the national budget to take care of all these additional responsibilities? There is nothing in the bill that says that. And what has been said, that we pattern from the Tobago House of Assembly and Jamaica. But the Tobago House of Assembly has a fixed portion from the budget so they could plan. So I am saying this is chaos and confusion. How are you going to deal with those added responsibilities with no money fixed? When you go to the Ministry of Finance, after you have made up all the responsibilities that is needed and you send there, he could only give to you what remain in the consolidated fund. It still has to be shared amongst all the rest. So why are you taking all this responsibility with no monies?
Member Hussain?
We had to be crazy.
Member Hussain?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I could safely say comrades, because I came from the bowels of local government. I was in the trade union where I was a shop steward for over 10 years.
But you don't help us at all since.
No. That is not fair to say, comrade.
Why? You want to give us in the constitution?
We need more dialogue. We need dialogue. But I would like to say to the heads of the trade union movement, what you all can do to increase productivity. Because like I was walking down the street day before yesterday, and somebody in a pickup wind down his glass and called me by my name and said, look, that man walking down there, he went to work 7 o'clock, and he finished work 8 o'clock. And it's happening throughout the 14 corporation. I was there, so I know. I was a daily paid worker. I was the mayor of the city. I was a councillor. What you all, and we as trade union people, I say you all know. But once a trade union member, always a trade union member. What you all could do to increase the productivity, putting it in the perspective of the reform.
Minister, you have asked a vital question. I would not refute nothing that you have said because you said you are part of us. So you are aware of some of the things happening. But therefore, whilst we try, and you will find management from the various councils will blame the trade union movement for the low level of productivity that exists. And why it is then that we only concentrating on local government where you have the daily rated work. It's all the ministries that is the same in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So it is not attributed only to local government. And the point remains is, you all are not taking the responsibility where it ought to be taken. The trade unions will negotiate with who deemed to be the employer, and if you look at the collective agreement, you will see where provisions have been made pertaining to productivity and what should be done. So what you do have in your ministry is a managerial problem. It's not the trade union. The trade union ought not to go out there on teams and gang and tell the workers, yes, we would have meetings and we'd say, listen, you have a contract and therefore we expect you to perform the duties, because I have always said a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. You cannot work 1 hour for 8 hours pay. We're sure about that.
Yeah,
but you want to take away the responsibility from your managers and put it onto the trade union to ensure that we ensure that there is productivity out there. CPEP and where you have contracts with CPEP and URP, you don't have that. You give them everything. They have down to respirator. Women still have to go in bushes to urinate. In bushes for over the years. Governments upon governments, I'm not speaking only of your government, has done absolutely nothing for over 100 years for the development of local government. Let us draw one attention to your ministry. In Arima, in the borough of Arima, was 1 square mile, 155 permanent workers. It has now developed to 4 square miles with La Roqueta, just name it, and all the surroundings that have. It's still 155. Its only cabinet could expand on the permanency of workers. People working 25 years, and they're casual, they're regular, because there is no security of tenure as it relates. They cannot go to a financial institution. Those are the provisions that ought to be made pertaining to the reform of local government. Permanency, when you're in the private sector, after you have gone through for 6 months probation for 3 or 4 months, you deem to be permanent. Mr. Chairman, the only, well, you ought to know it because your ministry is the same thing. 25 years I'm not permanent because I have to wait until there is a vacancy in the category of which I have employed before I could become permanent. How you could expect to get the level of productivity when these measures of uncertainty lies over those workers, not certain if they will be working today or tomorrow. Look, the problem I had in Diego Martin, 273 workers, nothing, no provisions, nothing. We had to write to the Minister of Finance, see the Prime Minister. Come on, man.
Okay, member Amin.
It's ridiculous, and we come in with this bill to say a reform. That is only reform for the elected members. Give them power, because that is what they wanted, and they have started. Councillors want to hire and fire and give instructions on jobs, and that we will not stand idle by and allow that to happen. We have to be sorted. We want the reform. but put it in this proper perspective that could encompass and incorporate everybody together. That's what we want.
President, you agree there's a productivity problem?
The whole country knows. Yes, I am aware.
Yeah, but we're talking about local government right now.
I worked there for years also. Council, everything, so I fully understand.
I work a little more than you. I work 40 years.
40?
Yeah.
No, I pass you.
All right.
Member Amin?
No, I just want to, so you are accusing the management. So for poor management.
Poor management is a managerial problem.
I work 7 o'clock and 7:30, quarter to 8.
Not all of them, not all of them, there
not
are
all.
people.
The minority, but they give a bad name to the rest.
Have you ever stopped to ask what are the reasons why they're going home early? I could tell you, and since you work there, you have, again, you've gone to the council and provisions have been made in infrastructure to build a drain. You send the workers there without nothing. When they reach for excavation, they dig the hole, the sand comes. They had to wait 2 weeks before the gravel comes. Another 2 weeks before they could get nails. They had no cement. All the time they sit down by the side of the road. If a CEO goes to work and the air condition breaks down, she goes home because she's uncomfortable. But you want us to sit by the side of the road without no material. That time the superintendent and them bathing in Las Cuevas and bathing out there, waiting until material could be bought wherever it's bonded. But you want us to suffer and you're not looking into that. But you're saying daily rated workers, they're not producing. Give them the material, the tools they will produce.
Mr. Lambert, thank you. Member Amin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Even though I served as a councillor for 10 years, and even though I appreciate the desire for elected representatives to have the ability to instruct workers, I also have an appreciation for the level of insulation in separating the two, the separation of powers, right? So in that regard, I support Mr. Lambert's concern about the mayor having the power to hire, fire, discipline, and so on. And it is something that, that has been raised before. My question to Mr. Lambert was going to be one, if you had the opportunity to have any input in this bill, in its drafting, and I think you answered that because you said that you got it when you got the invitation to attend today's hearing. My second question, therefore, would be, are you and your union in a position to make recommendations, having now received the bill, and will you be willing to make comprehensive recommendations? Because you have a number of new responsibilities. For example, you may want to recommend new positions on the establishment, for instance. Are you in that position to make those recommendations in a timely manner towards this committee?
Senators, we could categorically say yes. We could do make submissions and recommendations pertaining to what we think is needed. We have been involved in it for over the years, and we have a good idea of what should be done and how it should be done. But this bill does not make provision for anything more than councillors to make them what they would like to become. That is too dangerous. Okay. Just imagine a minister can't give instruction, but you're giving councillors authority to give instruction. Sure. So that is craziness.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. As we get ready to close, I want to give an opportunity to Mr. Philip from Contractors and General Workers Trade Union to share with us any additional views. You've heard your colleagues and you've followed the proceedings. Is there anything further that you would want to provide to the committee?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll just take a page from them because while we sit here, this bill in its entirety, it seems like it's going to take away some powers. For instance, Mr. Chairman, if we are talking about collective bargaining on one way, and this bill is telling you who could fire, who could hire, and things like that, but in the same breath they're telling about the chief postal officer shall set the terms and conditions of service of the officer. Where are we going from there?
Right.
Where are we going? No, Mr. Chairman,
So
that's it, because, Mr. Chairman, we take for instance, Mr. Chairman, if you're making a collective agreement and you don't put certain clause in it, like disciplinary, where you're going for disciplinary, they will not pass it. But we have in 1 year that is in front of us and we can't do it. It will become law. So we have to be very careful with this draconian piece of legislation here, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. I wanna thank you for participating. Mr. Prentice, you have something to say?
Yes, I would like to say something. Even in conjunction with Comrade Lambert would have made mention of, I am from the Port of Spain Corporation. I'm not only President General of the Union, I'm a senior foreman at the Transport and Cleansing Garage. And I realize that what you would have raised in connection with productivity, and it have many ways in which coming out of this bill that a number of things can be changed. One, for example, coming out of the Port of Spain Corporation, we speak about productivity, but when the workers don't have tools and equipment to carry out the functions, it means that that is part of where the problems fall down. We have issues where we have at this time, and I'm saying it here today because some people may not really be aware as to what are the effects and the things that are affecting the daily rated workers in some corporations. We have 17 garbage compactors, and today we have 3 garbage compactors working. The garage at the transport division is the garage which has the sole responsibility for all the vehicles owned by the Port of Spain Corporation, which is 160-odd vehicles. What we discovered recently is that even in making provision for parts and maintenance and repairs, the maintenance and repairs funds, which we would have thought was $2 million over the period of time, only recently discovered it includes fuel costs. So that when they take the fuel costs out of what is provided for the corporation boils down with a mere $900,000 to carry out the repairs of these vehicles. These vehicles are highly technical in nature and very cost-effective to maintain and manage. And if we don't have what is required to do the day-to-day operations, this is why the Port of Spain Corporation at this time is in the state that it is in, along with poor management of the corporation.
Okay, we'll have the last submission from Member Darcy.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say something, please. I work at the San Fernando City Corporation, and it was my union, the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union, who called on the corporation to start a meeting as it relates to productivity. And within those meetings, top management could not get the supervisors to attend those meetings. And we had a breakdown. So most times, you tend to blame the workers or the union. But it was my union who took the initiative to engage management as it relates to productivity. And it is management responsibility. So we engaged them. The process started, but it was broken down as it relates to management. I needed to put that on the table.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeBeek-Mead. And for once, nobody is blaming the ministers. So I'm happy for that. Management is blaming the daily rated workers, the daily rated workers blaming the management, and we understand. Those are not matters. We appreciate all the information provided, and it's consistent with what we've been hearing. Of course, a lot of those things are not going to be addressed in any bill of this nature. They really relate to operational matters, but we do in fact appreciate the views and the experiences that you've shared with us. I want to invite my colleague, Member Robinson Regis, and then Mr. Indar Singh before we close the proceedings.
You want to close one? Much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to put on the record in my capacity as chairman of NTAC that matter of productivity and work ethic was discussed very in depth at NTAC. Member Lambert is a member also, and he's aware of that. And NTAC.
Well, I'm speaking for point of
because it is clear that that is an issue that needs to be dealt with in Trinidad and Tobago. The Cabinet has agreed that that issue of productivity and work ethic is going to be sent to the Productivity Council for further ventilation, and then a policy is going to be brought forward. But it must be made clear that that is an issue that affects not only the workers, but it does affect the entire structure of how we get things done in Trinidad and Tobago. And if the work ethic is not changed, we will have serious issues.
Thank you. Member Narsingh.
Chairman, and again, I know we are pressed for time because we have a sit-in. Because we have the daily paid unions. We got a submission, I think, from the monthly paid. But I really would want to get their views or their input, because on page 16 of the proposed bill, on the last paragraph, by inserting after section 34 the following new section: a corporation shall provide for the establishment and maintenance of a pension scheme and to arrange for membership in a scheme for its employee. I don't know if, and I too would like to get your views on this particular issue and entering into and carry into effect arrangement with insurance companies and association for securing any employee or surviving spouse or dependent, such as gratuities, pensions, and allowances as authorized by this section. Does this take into consideration, I don't know if in the consultation, that it takes into consideration daily paid or monthly paid or all employees under the employee of the corporation, as is proposed in this legislation?
What the member have just said is of paramount importance. Because of the limitation of time, we thought then we would have some more time that we would have been able to give you a comprehensive report of our concerns pertaining to this draconian bill that is about to be passed.
Member Mr. Lambert, we've asked you, all three unions and the municipal police, that you have the opportunity to provide written submissions.
Yes, we will do.
And
I just want to say about a crave your indulgence, to say very briefly.
Sure.
A crave your indulgence. The pension is of paramount importance, and it is very unfair, Mr. Chairman, to some daily rated workers from central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. Some daily rated workers are pensionable. They become pensionable because also we represent them because they fall under the Act. We represent the daily rated workers at WASA, they have pension. HDC gave a time frame, they also. Why it is that central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly does not have a pension? You have worked for 25, 30 years, and then you have to go and look for work in CPEP and URP after the completion of your time. We have signed as NUGFW a principle of a pension plan, signed by the Honorable Kenneth Valley. And look, Minister Regis is there. We approached the Prime Minister, and he had given us certain instructions to look into it. I approached him also personal after to deal with a pension. And what they are saying here, speaking in terms, we don't want no scheme, a fund for no scheme. We want a pension plan for central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. We went that far to say because of the economic situation, what we do want is a contributory pension plan. We want to contribute towards it, so therefore all the problems will not lie on the coppers of the country. So a pension that is mentioned here, delete the word scheme and give us a time frame when you are going to implement a pension plan for central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. But we will make further submission on that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Mr. Lambert, the only people you left out from your pension plan is the senators. So maybe you could include the senators in your negotiations. Thank you very much to the Amalgamated Workers Union, NUJ, Contractors and General Workers Trade Union, the Municipal Police. We thank you very much. Your submissions, of course, have been very helpful. We look forward to receiving your written submission. You want a time frame? I know that you would be reasonable, Mr. Lambert, and your colleagues will also be reasonable. As soon as the committee gets it, we share it, we give it consideration. We've had, I will tell you, the Secretariat, based on the previous public consultations we've had, they've already compiled 90 pages of recommendations and comments. They have other things to include in that, so as quickly as you can get it to us, we'd appreciate it. I want to thank the members of the committee, the Secretariat provided by the Parliament, and also the representatives of the Chief Parliamentary Council who are here. I want to thank the viewers, including those who would view the rerun of this broadcast, and the listeners. Ms. Preto, I'll give you the final word.
Members, we just would like to not get lost among the union's contributions, and we would like that we will be remembered. We have made our supplications to you, and we want to emphasize, sir, that we are here asking to be placed under the management of the Commissioner of Police for proper structure, proper management, sir, and we don't want that to be forgotten. Yes.
I thought I addressed that matter very clearly. It is the one matter. If you look at early drafts of this bill, it was a matter that was addressed in earlier drafts of this bill, and that is because the government recognized that we needed to remove this dichotomy in relation to municipal police, and also solve some of the matters that have gone to court in relation to supplemental police officers, estate police officers, and other officers who exercise police functions. So I have also said that such a change the government recognizes requires the support of our colleagues in the opposition, and part of the work of this Joint Select Committee is to make recommendations to the Parliament.
Thank
so
you,
I thank you very much for your final submission. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.